Hi guys, Dr. Rachel Hippolyte here. I'm just kicking my bum into gear because I've found a little bit of extra time and I am going to start doing my videos again just to help you guys understand your brains. Really important because if you have knowledge and understanding about your brain, this enigma, then you have control over it. Okay, so one of the questions I always get asked is, do I train my brain? Absolutely, 100%. And in fact, when I find I slip off and I don't change my brain, generally because I'm finding it's working well and I'm good and I stop prioritizing, I do find then I slip back into bad habits. One of the reasons I got into brain training was because it's bloody hard work being in this brain. I have a pattern in my brain, and we all have certain patterns where I have a low prefrontal cortex, and you would have heard me talking about prefrontal cortex a lot. One of the most important parts of our brain to be functioning well for our whole brain to function well. Okay. This is the part of the brain that's really the executive function. It allows us to stay on track. It allows us to set goals. It's the bit that really sets us humans off against all other animals. Okay, that part of our brain has evolved from cavemen. And it really, when that part of your brain works well, it really quietens down the other parts of the more emotional parts of the brain. So when this starts dropping, and we see it in ADHD a lot, which is more of a genetic, but stress will make this part of the brain drop in function. And when that drops in function, it stops controlling the emotional brain, and then the emotional brain can then become overactive. Okay, so now another part of my brain that tends to work too well. So when my prefrontal cortex starts dropping, I find I then start becoming more obsessive, is my anterior cingulate gyrus. This part of the brain, when it's working well, allows us to shift attention. It allows us flexibility so we can cope with change. It allows us to be adaptable. And if you think about it, in our world, it's always changing. So we need to be able to be adaptable and go with the flow, I think, is probably the best thing. Um, we it helps with error detection, this part of the brain. So if we're constantly looking for errors, but when it works too hard, that's when I know I need to train and I need to get on the brain train. I start becoming a bit obsessive. I start becoming less flexible, so I start controlling things within my life. Not as easy to go with the flow. So I like my routine, and if anything throws a spanner in the works, I start struggling. And error detection. So we see this a lot in body dysmorphia. We see this a lot in people that don't like themselves. We see this a lot in people that are oppositional or struggle with relationships because they're constantly detecting errors either in themselves or in other people, purely because this part of the brain is just working way too hard. Other things I find when I haven't trained for a while is that I start procrastinating. And then that procrastinating means that I'm not doing the things that I want to do to make me feel good. So that might be exercise, that might be paperwork that I've got to do with work. It might be doing these videos. And then I start beating myself up and worrying because it's got into my head, my anterior cingulate gyrus isn't allowing it out. Okay. So I find that when I don't train my brain, and I don't train that often these days, mainly because I've done a big bulk of my training probably about 2 years ago, which was really quite life changing. But when I find I have a natural ability in my brain pattern to start making my own stresses, so I find that by not training my brain starts becoming less flexible. It starts finding those old bad patterns. It stops working in real time and adapting to what I should be doing. And to be honest, if my brain's not working well, life just gets hard. Can't make decisions. Um, but typical me, if I'm busy, I just forget about it. It should be the way I exercise, like going to the gym or exercise, once it's in my routine, it should stay there. But I do find if I get busy, I think, you have to put little gel in your hair, which means you have to work out when you're going to wash your hair. Um, it's whether I can quickly get one in before the next patient comes in. But I stop prioritizing it, and I soon find probably after about 2 or 3 months, I start slipping. Now, the good thing is I've probably got around 200 trainings under my belt. So the healthy pathways, the flexibility in my brain is there. And quite often it only needs 1, 2, 3 or 4 to get me right back on track again, which is one of the reasons that I've started procrastinating about doing these videos and teaching you guys how you can help your brains. Because believe me, when your brain works well, life works well. You make better decisions, you communicate better, and you stop beating yourself up, you stop procrastinating. So, yes, I do train my brain, and yes, I absolutely 100% don't prioritize training my brain as much as I should. But as soon as I see it slipping, okay, so now I know what it's like to have a good brain. When I was a child, teenager, probably until 2 years ago, I just thought that that was my norm. Now I know what it's like to have a better functioning brain, my brain, um, and therefore I can see myself slipping, and I can just jump back on track and start training again. All right, guys, hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions about your brains, please drop me a line. And I have a list of videos I am going to be doing over the next couple of months, just to help you understand how you can change your life by changing your brain, by making your brain work at your brain's best. See you guys.